Hello, my amazing Algebra Half students. This is Mrs. A, and I love math. And I'm sorry that my voice is kind of gravelly. I have a cold, and my voice is really way down low, and I'm coughing a lot. So I am going to try to make it through this lesson because I don't want us to get behind. So today we're talking about lesson 31, which is least common multiple. And a least common multiple is very, very important because the next section we're going to talk about adding fractions. And we have to use this least common multiple principle to be able to add two fractions together. So watch very closely. Now the least common multiple is the smallest whole number that is evenly divisible by two or more numbers. So they'll give us the numbers, and then we have to find the least common multiple, the smallest whole number that those two or three numbers will go into. So the first one that we're going to look at is your example, and they're giving us the numbers 2 and 3 and 5. Now 2 and 3 and 5 are all prime numbers, so we cannot factor them to find out the numbers that go into them because there are no numbers that go into them besides themselves and 1. So we're going to, when we have prime numbers, to find the least common multiple, we're simply going to multiply the three prime numbers together. 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 5 is 30, and so the least common multiple is 30. And 30 is divisible by 2, 30 is divisible by 3, and 30 is divisible by 5, and it is the smallest number that is divisible by 2 and 3 and 5. Okay, so now let's do another example. And now we have some bigger numbers, 18, 81, and 500. So now we're going to factor these numbers. And when I factor them, I want to prime factor them. I want to get them down as low as I can. So 18, we're going to divide by 2, and 2 into 18 leaves 9, and 9 is divisible by 3, and 3 into 9 is 3. So the factors of 18 are 2 times 3 times 3. Okay, so 2 times 3 are the factors. So let's check. 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. So we have prime factored the number 18. Now let's prime factor the number 81. So 81 is divisible by 3. How do I know? Remember, when a number is divisible by 3, I can add the digits of the number together. 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 is divisible by 3. Therefore, 81 is divisible by 3. 3 into 81 leaves 27. Okay, 3 goes into 8 2 times with 2 left over. And then I put down the 21, and 3 goes into 21 7 times. So now 27, when I add those digits, I also get 9. So it is divisible by 3. And 3 into 27 leaves 9. And then, of course, 9 is 3 times 3. So I could write out 81 is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That takes so much time and space and room. What is a shortcut for writing 3 times 3 times 3 times 3? I could write 3 to the 4th. So 3 to the 4th power. Okay, means the same thing as 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So those are the factors of 81. So lastly, let's look at 500. 500 is divisible by 5, and 5 is a prime number, and I'm left with 100. And 100 is divisible by 2, and I'm left with 50. And 50 is divisible by 2, and I'm left with 25. And 25 is 5 times 5. Okay, so the prime factors of 25 are all along here, and I'm about to write them in order on the next board. So for the prime factors of 25, we had 2 times 2, times 5 times 5 times 5. So here we're going to go to another board where we're going to see all of these written down by themselves. Okay, so now we are ready to begin building our least common multiple. Our least common multiple has to have each one of these numbers go into it evenly. So it needs to have enough factors so that you can see the factors of 18, you can see the factors of 81, and you could see the factors of 500 in this number. Now, we are going to have all of those in our least common multiple, but the least common multiple partners here can share the factors. In other words, I don't need to be able to find 18 and 81 separately. I just have to be able to pick out all of their factors. So I'm going to start to build my least common multiple, and I'm going to start with this one right here. I'm going to say, well, I need to have 1, 2, and 2 3s. So I'm going to write 3 times 3. Okay? And that will take care of 18. So then I say, well, I need 81 in here too. But 81 is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. I already have 2 3s, and they can share the 2 3s, but I need 2 more 3s, or I won't be able to find 81's factors. So I'm going to write down 3 times 3, okay? And then I look over here, and notice I have in 500, I have 2 2's, but down here I only have 1 2. So I'm going to have to put another 2 in, so that I have 2 2's for the number 500, and then I have to have 3 5's, and I have no 5's. So I'm going to have to add in 5, 5, 5, and multiply those in, and now I have all of the factors that I need. So let's check. For the number 18, I need to see a 2 and 2 3's. A 2 and, whoopsie, I'm down here, a 2 and 2 3's. Okay, for the number 81, I have to see 4 3's, but they can share. So 1, 2, 3, 4 3's, they can share. And then for, let's see if I have a different color, a green one, okay, for 500, I need 2 2's and 3 5's. So 2, they can share 2 2's and 1, 2, 3 5's. All of my numbers are used at least once, and some of them are shared. So I have a big number to multiply out. I'm going to do this a little bit easier though. Okay, I'm going to say the 2 grouped with this 5 would make a 10. And another 2 grouped with another 5 would make a 10. And I know 10 times 10 is 100. So now let me multiply the rest of the numbers. So 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, I already know that was 81, right? Those are the factors of 81. So I have 81 times 5, because I had 1 5 left. So 81 times 5 is 405, and then times the 100. So the number that is my least common multiple should be 40,500. Now we're going to prime factor 3 more numbers because we're doing the next example. So I'm going to prime factor them here, and then I will transfer them to the other board and show you how we build our least common multiple. So 24 is divisible by 2. Oops, that one's gone. Let's try this one. Divisible by 2, and that leaves 12. And then 12 is divisible by 2, and that leaves 6. And 6 is divisible by 2, and that leaves 3. So my factors for 24 are 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. 2 times 2 times 2 times 3. Okay, so for short, I could say that's 2 cubed times 3, and that would save me a little bit of space. Okay, now what about 55? 55 is divisible by 5. All my markers are getting tired here. Okay, 55 is divisible by 5, leaving 11. And I'm done. So 5 times 11 is 55. Okay, and then this one was the 24. So 80, if we divide by 2, we get a 40. If we divide the 40 by 2, we get a 20. If we divide the 20 by 2, we get a 10. If we divide the 10 by 2, we get a 5. So 80 is 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 5. Now I'm going to take the 3 of those and put them on our big board. Okay, so now I've written out our factors for each number. So each number's prime factors are written down in a nice line. And now I'm going to start with my first one. And I have to have all of those factors. So my least common multiple has got to have 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And then I'm going to jump over a little bit and I'll put the 3 so that I have room to add other numbers in. We like to keep smallest to largest all of our numbers. Then we need a 5. Well, 5 will go over here to the right of the 3. We also need an 11. Okay, so all of these are going to be multiplied in there. Now I'm back down here to 80, and now I see 4 2s. But I already have, whoa. I should have only had 3 2s there. That was my mistake. So 2, 2, 2, and then the 3, the 5, and the 11. Okay, so now we're down to 80, and we have the 3 2s that we already have, but we have one more 2. So now we're going to add another 2 in there. And the 5 is already there to share. So let's double check by making sure that every number is represented and we can find them all without having any problems. So 24 is 2, 2, 2, 3. 2, 2, 2, and a 3. So that number's okay. 5 times 11 makes the 55. So 5 times 11 has to be in my least common multiple. And then 80 has 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. I've got to have as many 2s as I see in any one number. So I have to have 4 2s in my least common multiple. And then the 5, but these 2 can share the 5 because there's only one 5 in any given number. Therefore, I'm done, and now all I have to do is multiply that big number together. Okay, well, I know that 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is going to be, well, let's go ahead and join this. That makes that a little bit easier. Okay, so the 2 times the 5 will make the 10, and then the 11 times 3 will be 33. 33 times the 8, 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, will give us 24, and 24, 26, and then I'm going to multiply that by our 10. So I'm going to add another 0 because I just multiplied by our 10, and that should be our least common multiple, 2,640. This next example is a little bit different. They didn't give us numbers at all. They gave us 3 pairs of factors. So this makes a number, but they didn't give us the numbers, and that's okay. They didn't need to. Okay, they gave us the factors, and that's really all we need. They actually saved us a step, didn't they? Okay, so these 3 numbers are expressed as prime factors. So now we're going to build the least common multiple of each one of these numbers by looking at the factors and seeing what we need to have all together here. So 2, 2, 3, 7, 7. Since that's our first one, we know we need 2 2s, a 3, and 2 7s. So 2, 2, 3, 7. I'm going to have to leave a little bit of space here because I got some 5s too. So I'm just going to put the 7s down here because I'm going to leave a space for my 5s. Okay? So 2, 2, 3, 7, 7. 2, 2, 3, 7, 7. We might have to put our 5s down here. Okay? And then in the next number, I have 2, 2, 2, 2. Well, that means I'm going to have 2 more 2s down here. So 2, 2, and then 5, 7. So I'm going to have a 5, and I'm going to have a 7, but I already have 2 7s, and they can share. Okay? And then in the next one, I have 4 5s. So I'm going to have to add 3 more 5s because I only have 1. 5, 5, 5. And lastly, I have a lonely 2, but I already have 4 2s, and they can certainly share with the lonely 2. So basically what the rule is that I will have the number, I will have at least, okay, so I will look for the one number that has the most 2s, and then my least common multiple must have that many. Okay, so that one has 2, that one has 4, that one has 1, so I had better have 4 2s in my LCD, and I have 4 2s in my LCD. So now we're going to look at 3s. That has no 3s. No 3s, 1 3. So my LCD must have the 1 3 to take care of that one. Then I look at my 5s. I have no 5s, 1 5 and 4 5s. Since I have 4 5s in one number, my LCM must have 4 5s. And lastly, I have 2 7s, 1 7, and no 7s. 2 7s is the most number of 7s that shows up in any number. Therefore, my LCM must have 2 7s. Okay, now the book has already multiplied all of that out for you, and so the number is 1,470,000 would be the smallest number that all 3 of those will go into. Okay, so you did not, now then it says in A, find what were the original numbers. You had to multiply each one of those together, and they were 588, 560, and 1,250, and then you had to find the least common multiple, which was all of those factors down at the bottom, and then we multiplied all of that together, and we got 1,470,000. So now let's do a practice problem. Practice problem A. Okay, in this first one, practice problem A, we're going to factor. That's always our first step in finding our least common multiple. And 35 is divisible by 5. And when I divide by 5, I get a 7. So 5 and 7 are my factors. When I divide 60 by 5, I get a 12. And when I divide 12 by 2, I get a 6. And when I divide 6 by 2, I get a 3. So my prime factors for 60 are 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. And then lastly, for 90, I divide by a 3, and I'm going to get a 30. And I divide by a 3 again, and I'm going to get a 10. And I divide by a 2 and a 5. So my factors for 90 are 2 times 3 times 3 times 5. So I'm going to write those on the big board so that we can figure out the LCM together. Okay, so now that we have all of these, we're going to say, okay, which numbers are we going to need to represent all of these? So first of all, let's start with the lowest number that we have, and we have a 2. Okay, so I can build it all the way up, or I can go and look for pairs of numbers. So the first one has no 2s. The second one does have 2 2s, and the third one has 1 2. Well, I always go with the biggest one, so I need 2 2s. So I'm going to put 2 times 2 up here in my LCM. And then I'm going to look at 3s because that's what's next. This has no 3s. This has 1 3. This one has 2 3s. This is the largest number of 3s found in any one of my numbers. So I'm going to write down 3 times 3, or 3 squared. All right, we don't have 4s because 4 is not a prime number. So next we go to 5s. And we have 1 5, 1 5, 1 5. No number has more than 1 5, so 1 5 is sufficient. Okay, and then we jump, not 6 because 6 is not prime, we jump to 7, and we have 1 7 and no more 7s. So 1 7 will do it. And we have no other numbers higher than 7. So our least common multiple will be 2 times 2 times 3 times 3 times 5 times 7. So when we look at it, I'm going to do the 5 and the 2 together again because that's a 10. And then I'm going to have 2 times 9 is 18. And 18 times 7 is 56, 12. And then I tack on the 0 for the 10. And I should get 1,260 as my least common multiple for that set. Now for our last practice problem. So I forgot to tell you to pause your video. So here's your last practice. Go pause your video and do it by yourself and then come back. Okay, hopefully you did that. 17 cannot factor at all, so 17 has to have a factor of 17. 33 is going to be 3 times 11, and we can't do anything else to it. 45 will take a little bit more work. 45, we take out a 5, we get a 9. We take out a 3, divide by 3, we get a 3. So 45 is 3 times 3 times 5. Oh, we got a lot of numbers. Not a lot common here. So what we're going to need for our LCM is we're going to start at the lowest number, and we have 3s. We have no 2s, so we have 2 3s and a 3. So our number is going to need 2 3s. So 3 times 3 is our LCM. And then we don't need to worry about that 3 because he's going to be included in those 2 3s. And then we have a 5, an 11, and a 17, which are all individual numbers that are going to have to go in there. And when we multiply that all out, we get 8,415. And I used a calculator because Mrs. A is tired and my voice is gravelly and it's time for me to go to bed. And this is Mrs. A, and may God bless your night.